Hi friends, this is an introduction video to the EZPZ Premium 2018 for Excel. This video is going to go over the third module. So let me hit the button here. It's the one where you export your sales data from Bless using a CSV file and importing the data here. You don't need to track inventory or sales levels. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and select the button since I'm on a blank spreadsheet. So once you've chosen this module, this is what you'll see here. Okay, there's not quite as many buttons as there is for the first module if you watched that video, but the data is just as important here as well. And we'll go through each of the tabs briefly here, and then there'll be other videos that go into each tab in depth. The important part here is if we go to the profits and losses, the revenues draw from your Bless sales using that Bless method, and there's a second source of revenue, and that's your bonus payments. So the Bless sales is just a general ledger spreadsheet, okay? But one thing to note is if you view your CSV file from Bless, you'll see that all of the headers across the top here match exactly. So all you have to do is copy your data and paste it into here, and the spreadsheet will be able to draw the data it needs in order to get your revenues. One thing to note is the trying to find it here. Oh, the item. One thing to note is the item name isn't set up in a very good way as far as being able to track what styles and sizes you sold. So the spreadsheet isn't able to track your inventory based on these sales just yet. All it really is pulling is your financials. So that's your Blessed sales. Your deposits and receipts will be entered here, and the two things that you'll want to be sure to enter is if you have any bonus checks that come in from being sponsor, coach, mentor, trainer, etc. You'll want to enter that revenue here so it can capture that. Also, your processing fees will want to get captured here as well. A lot of this other information is more revenue tracking based on your receipts and deposits. You don't necessarily need to do it, but you can. It would just be redundant data. That's the two primary areas for revenues. The other part is as you're getting further down the P&L is your cost of goods sold. You want to be able to do your inventory counts, and this is important in the cost of goods sold calculation because you need to be able to know your inventory at the beginning of the month, your inventory at the end of the month to see the differences, and then the money you spent on purchasing inventory as well. Those can be done here on the inventory count button. So if we click on it here, all it is each little small worksheets for each of the months. Now these would be at the end of the month. So January 31st, February 28th, March 31st, and so on. All you have to do is enter the style code and the quantity that you've counted. From there, the valuation of those will start to build. The inventory purchases will go here, and it's just date, the reference or the order number, and then the cost that you spent. Be sure to include the shipping costs. Shipping costs are part of what you spent to acquire the inventory, so those get rolled into the acquisition or the inventory purchase cost as well. They're not a separate cost anywhere. It's part of that the acquisition cost. Yeah, so those are the three main areas that cover the cost of goods sold. One thing to note is at January 1st and on December 31st, beginning at the end of the year, you do want to use the receipts ledger. The receipts ledger is where those two areas are counted. So this would be a January 1st count. This would be a December 31st count. And then all the other counts in between January 31st, February 28th, and so forth, go here in the monthly inventory count. So that covers the gross revenues and the cost of goods sold. you take the difference between those two and you end up with your gross profit. Below that is really just your expenditures, and this is pretty straightforward if you've used a spreadsheet or an EZPZ spreadsheet before. These are just your, what you're using as business expenses. These can be found in the business expenses tab, which is pretty straightforward. Just date, the category, the description, how much you paid, and any notes that you want to include as well. Note that the categories for the expenses is from the Schedule C categories. So if you have any questions on those categories, you can find that here in the reference master. Here's the categories. There are spaces available to include other categories. Wouldn't recommend it because eventually you're going to have to categorize all of your expenses on the Schedule C anyway. So it's best to use the ones provided, but the space is available there if you need it. There is some descriptions on what would be in each of those categories as well in the reference tab. Once you have that, one thing to note is that the commissions and fees will calculate from not in addition to the expenses tab, but it will also calculate the fees from the deposit tab that we talked about earlier under the processing fees column. So any data that you enter in the processing fees column will get captured as an expense and then end up in the profits and losses under the commissions and fees. Once you have that, then that's how you generate a profit loss. And then this is just a calculation for inventory and reinvestment, just to give you an idea of like, okay, here's my profit losses, here's my gross profits, and then here's what I'm spending back into reacquiring more inventory. So that's what you would just kind of give you an idea of, where some of the money is going off of that. Then from there, you can get an estimated tax liability per month. This draws from, in the reference master, this percentage here that you set. So you can set whatever estimated percentage that you want to pull. What it will do then is it will take the gross profit, not the gross profit, the net profit here, and it will calculate, okay, but what's the percentage of that you should set aside for your tax liability. And that's really the majority, kind of the concept of this module. Again, the key point here is the blessed sales, being able to transfer the information from what's reported in blessed to here. One thing you noted that we didn't talk about is any inventory. This won't track inventory. It's only tracking your financials. Just giving you an idea, how to generate a profit and loss statement every month, and then at the end of the year, how to generate your Schedule C. I hope you like this introduction. If you have any questions, I'm available to answer. Just shoot me an email or a message. Go to the website. It's www.ezpzspreadsheets.com, and as well, you can hit the user manual and the help center, which will take you to the website as well.